All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to hang out for just a minute or two to make sure that everyone can get settled in and so you won't miss a thing. Taylor and I are coming to you from Bozeman. Taylor, how is your corner of Bozeman today?
My corner of Bozeman is good. It's a little warm and rainy, but just working from home on a cloudy day. What about you, Amy?
Yeah, same. I'm in Four Corners. A little windy last night, but we're looking better this morning. Are you ready for Christmas? Do you have a Christmas tree? Where are we at in our holiday preparation?
Yes, we got our Christmas tree. We live on 140 acres, so we just went out to our
What?
place and got our tree. We do that every year. It's super fun. So we did that, I think December 1st. So that's been up for a while. What about you?
Lovely. Yes, we went and we got one outside of Ennis, and it was quite the trek. We got this like very cute Charlie Brown scraggly tree, but then as we were driving through Ennis, which is like the small town outside of Bozeman, then they had these absolutely gorgeous, picture perfect Christmas trees for like $30. I was like, oh God,
Oh,
what have
gosh.
we done? We made a mistake. All right, perfect. Well, we're just past the hour, so I'm officially going to get us started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Arno, and I am the Director of Business Development here at XYPN. Today, I'm excited to host this event, Planning Your Big Move in 2026, transitioning from BD to fee only. And we have with us the VP of Sapphire, Taylor Hain. So, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you do have any questions for us, then drop those down in that Q&A module. You'll see that at the bottom of Zoom, just a little easier for us to manage and keep track of. We will be dropping any resources that we mentioned in the chat, so you can find links there. Also, when we're finishing up today, when you close out of Zoom, you will get an option to fill out a survey. We would love for you to do that. Tell us how we did. And then also, please provide any topics that you would like to hear about in the future. We have a few upcoming events. We'll just drop the virtual events page so you can scope those out. The one I want to highlight is coming up on December 17th, and that is going to be Myth versus Math, what it actually takes to scale an advice-centric firm. Got some heavy hitters on that. We have Alan Moore, Michael Kitces, and Jeffrey Levine from kitces.com. So you want to check that out. That is all proceeds from that. It is a paid webinar are going to benefit Julia Lochner's family. She is an employee that passed away recently from XYPN, and so we want to help her family out. So this is going to that. So check that out. Head over there. It's going to be great content. You won't want to miss it, and it goes to a good cause. I think that's it for my housekeeping items. Taylor, let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and give us the goods on transitioning to Sapphire from a BD.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Hello, everybody. Thanks for jumping in this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're calling from. My name is Taylor Hain. I have been with the XYPN team for 8 years in January, and I have had a variety of roles at our company. When we launched our own RIA and our corporate RIA service, Sapphire, a few years ago, I moved over to run that. So that has been my full-time focus for the past few years. In that time, we have helped lots and lots of firms transition and navigate this move from a BD to a fee only corporate RIA. And in the past over a decade of just XYPN existing, we have helped lots of people tackle that move without the support of an RIA. So today we are going to talk through what that transition really looks like. I know there are a lot of questions, a lot of fear, a lot of how do I time everything exactly right? Of course, it is December as we're thinking about 2026. I know a lot of advisors are kind of thinking, okay, I may want something different for myself and my future firm. I don't know how much work this is going to take or when I should start planning. So I'm hoping you leave this webinar today knowing if this is the right path for you and then knowing some things to start thinking about now. My style is that if you want to drop questions into the chat or into Q&A, I will try to answer those as we go. So if you have something just burning, please drop it. We will have a section, of course, for Q&A, but want to make sure we get those answered throughout. With that, I'm going to kick off. Why is it doing that? Sorry, one second. Let's see. We will. course, technical difficulties in the first second always happens. Sorry, everyone. All right, share here. And we'll just go back into slideshow. All right, so today's agenda, we will be talking about, of course, what life in a BD looks like versus life in an RIA. Second, we'll be really looking at what we titled here as the Sapphire shift. So, what is XYPN Sapphire? What does that really look like for you on a day-to-day basis? If you're at a BD now, what will that feel like different with Sapphire and our support? Number three are going to be the gotchas, all of the things you may be thinking about, like I may want to move away from my BD, but how do I handle the protocol conversation? How do I handle moving away from my commissions? We'll dive into a lot of specifics there. And number four, of course, we'll be talking about that fee only transition in a lot of detail. We'll also be talking about your timeline. This webinar is really to think about if you do want to move in 2026, what do you need to be planning for now? So we'll get into the specifics there. So, why would you want to move away from a BD? This is something I'm seeing from more and more advisors, and honestly, even just in the RIA space, as we have advisors who are working at firms that are getting bought up by private equity, and some of the rules and regulations are changing. But some of the things I hear from advisors at BDs are on the screen, really thinking about the heavy pre approval steps, all of the hoops you have to jump through just on the compliance end, the compensation grids, product pressure, having to push things that may not feel right to you, and having to really think about what your compensation is going to be at the end of the day. Fragmented support, having to work with lots of different teams behind the scenes to get something done, not knowing necessarily the right person to talk to, and waiting on the teams to get things done for you. Rigid processes that override advisor judgment. That's something I hear a lot is just like, I just don't feel like I'm being trusted to run things the right way because I have to fit this really long rule book. And then finally, old systems and tech. That is a really big one I hear all of the time. The systems and tech at a lot of BDs can be dated. You may not be using the most modern tools. Our XYPN community is really fans of the fintech space, new tech coming out, and a lot of advisors are looking to be able to operate on a more modern advisor tech stack. And that's where we get to the modern advisor wish list. So, what are the things that advisors I'm talking to when they're thinking about breaking away from their firm or BD? What are they really looking for? They're really looking for autonomy in pricing in the service model. Yes, of course, we are a firm. Like you have to follow some rules, some regulation, but you don't want to be told exactly what to charge. That you can only do AUM business if you want to do a project plan. If you want to have some flexibility, advisors want to be able to have that. A lot of advisors do want to move to that fiduciary alignment of fee only and may not necessarily have the tools or the know-how to get there. Flexibility with investments. Most advisors, even if they have their CFA, don't want to be the ones running the trading desk, building an investment operations team, but you also don't want to just have one model that you have to throw all of your clients into. And not be able to handle things like legacy stock positions and unique circumstances that your clients may have. Support without micromanagement, of course, is a really big one. At XYPN, we are very much about independence and autonomy, and that is what the advisors who come and work with us are looking for. The ability to, within reasonable boundaries, make decisions, build the firm you want to build without somebody looking over your shoulder and telling you no for really no reason you can discern. A modern tech stack at XYPN, we have an approach we call like best in class. We really have the choice for you of all of the big players in the fintech industry to build your tech stack around. And a path to scale without building everything yourself. Of course, you want to have that flexibility. You may want to expand your team. You may want to have some in-house help for para planning or even other advisors, but really no advisor I talk to wants to do everything. When you think about leaving your BD, sometimes the fear that I hear is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do everything. How can I possibly handle that? And the answer is that you really don't. What we'll talk about today is, especially on the transition side, because that's the theme of this webinar, but really the service that we built with Sapphire is there to add the support where it matters, and really making sure that you can get the support you need without the extra strings that don't really add value for you. So, what is Sapphire? Before we jump in and talk about a transition and what we can do for you, uh, Sapphire is XYPN's SEC registered RIA. XYPN you may know of for what we've been doing for the past 11 years, which is really empowering and having all of the support tools and services for advisors to launch their own fee-only RIAs. That is still what we do day in and day out. We've helped thousands of firms launch their own RIAs. But over the past few years, with a lot of compliance pressures changing and just advisors again not wanting to do everything on their own, we've heard that pain point, and we actually launched our own RIA to solve that problem. So advisors can affiliate with us as IARs, as 1099s, and then gain access to all of the support that comes with that structure. Our setup is that you own your firm, your brand. You can create your own firm name, brand name. You are not operating as the XYPN firm. You own your client experience. And then in the background, we really specialize in compliance, in operations, investment management, billing, so that you don't have to focus on those things. We offer you a built-in back office. We operate as your CCO, is what that's supposed to say. As I mentioned earlier, you have access to a full modern best-in-class tech stack. On the transition and onboarding support, which we will get into deeply later, we have a full team, our transition team, that manages from beginning to end your transition over to Sapphire. So tracking all of the pieces, account statuses, et cetera, is something you don't do on your own. We have an investment management, portfolio management, and trading team in-house to manage your client's money, do all of your trading, rebalancing, and fully move that over to our team. And then more than anything, our commitment and what we try to aim to do is that you stay and operate fee only, and you are in control of your firm. So, what does it look like in a few different scenarios from kind of the BD world to Sapphire? In the BD world, we hear again like heavy pre-approval for anything that you want to do, really slow escalation paths if you need to get something done or need something looked at a second time, fragmented support, and technology decisions that you can't really make on your own. If you want to add a new AI note taker, getting that approved may take a really long time, and you may be told no at the end of the day. On our side, we have no pre-approval for routine marketing and communications. That is how we operate on the compliance side. Everything is post-review. So you can email clients, you can email prospects, you can send out your normal social media posts, and you will not be waiting for us to review those before they get sent out. Our team really operates as a unified team. So comms, ops, investment support, you all reach out to through the same team, and then we coordinate things behind the scenes depending on your request and make sure that you get what you need. The extent of our support is really, really vast. We handle really any interaction that you have with your custodian. So all paperwork, ACATs, money movement, new account openings, anything is handled for you. And you really still own the client communication. We just continue to execute your back office. And then on the compliance side, we got into some of this, but on the BD side, you have to really think about product suitability constraints. Surveillance heavy is the word I hear a lot. On our side, because we are fee only, you don't have to worry about the product and suitability constraint side of things. The ADV, U4, filing management, all of that is done for you because our structure is we operate as your CCO. So we are the ones building the compliance program. We are the ones building the boundaries. All you need to do is operate within them. On a day-to-day basis, for most advisors, they do not have to think about compliance in the way that you do if you are your own CCO, or if you are in an environment where you're continually requesting a review of certain items, if you're requesting interactions with your compliance team. We have really built this to give you the autonomy and the trust that our advisors deserve to build their practice their way. Like this says, everything is post review. In compliance, we really think of as a collaborative process and not adversarial. For the most part, on our CCO side, we try to operate from a yes and versus a flat no, which I know a lot of advisors are used to being told. And I see some questions popping in. Let me see. Dominic asked, how much does Sapphire cost? Sapphire is 1,500 a month and then 20% of revenue. Ivan is talking about some international transition concerns. Ivan, we can follow up on that. Anything international just has a lot of considerations that we need to think through. And then that is it. Awesome. All right. The ownership question. This is one we get a lot because we joke here that you really find out how independent you are when you try to leave wherever you're at. So most advisors coming in really want to know, what do I own? What does Sapphire own? You, as the advisor, own all of your client relationships. You own your client data when you go to leave. That's also why we've chosen the approach of using a best-in-class tech approach versus a proprietary tech that we build everything and control all of the data. If you, for whatever reason, do choose to leave, you can take your Right Capital data, you can take your eMoney data, and you can move that into your own subscription that is actually still useful for you. You actually own your investment philosophy. Our team is here to implement alongside a range of investment philosophies that you may bring to your firm. We have models that range from passive, semi-active to active. And you also own all client communication and kind of front-facing client comms. We own all the things behind the scenes. So the CCO work, ADV updates, of course, any audits, we are getting audited as the firm. Trading, rebalancing, again, all transfers, and then billing is also completely handled by our team. So now that you know what Sapphire is, let's get into the topic of today's webinar. So how do we actually prepare for a transition? The big one that comes to everyone's minds, who is at a BD or even just at a non-fee only RIA, is how can I possibly move to being fee only? That always ends up seeming like a very, very difficult or impossible task. Sometimes your current firm or your BD may make it feel that way, but we again have helped hundreds of people make that shift over the years at XYPN, and it is not impossible. But really, all of these steps would start taking place after resignation. So after you resign from your BD, in this case, is when these steps could start coming into play. We as XYPN really believe in fee only. Our firm is fee only. So as a part of XYPN's firm, you would need to operate on a fee only basis. Once you give your resignation at your BD, all and any commissionable activity would need to stop immediately. So that would be writing any new policies, starting any new trails, all of that would need to stop immediately. Usually, when you give your notice at your BD, any appointments you do have with carriers begin terminating immediately. So, your BD would, in most cases, start all of those processes. However, there's a wide range of approaches. I don't want to say that that would happen for sure. And that's why it says automatically or via paperwork. There are some that you may have to follow up on and actually request be closed via your own paperwork. But for the most part, your BD, as soon as you give resignation, would begin closing out those carrier appointments. However, any remaining trails that you do have, you would just need to keep track of how long are those in place, when do those contracts close, and when does that money actually stop. As the fee-only RIA and as XYPN as a whole, we will be helping you find a place for those trails, but we will not be waiting for all of your trails to expire. That would be really impossible for making you move over to a fee-only structure because those trails, as all of you know, can take many, many years to wind down. But it will be on you working with our team to keep track of those. When do they expire? Where do we want to find a home for those? How are they going to work? Anything is going to be possible as long as we disclose it compliance-wise and as long as you're not writing any new policies and again, selling any new commissionable products. Let's see. Yes, we already talked through disclosing any remaining legacy payouts. And then after all of those pieces are done, you're going to transition fully into our fee-only structure. Again, this is where the timing can get a little bit confusing. Most of these pieces cannot be done before you start resigning. You can't stop being the listed carrier or the appointment before you give your notice to your BD. So a lot of these will have to happen after you give your resignation. Sapphire will be there if you do go with us to help keep track of these things, help keep wind things down for you, help make that transition a little bit smoother. But this can be and is something that you should be preparing for. On the preparation front, because this is such a large part of some advisors' in existing revenue, is really tracking and making sure you have a deep grasp of what are you receiving from trails, what are you receiving from advice, and which clients that you have now do you think would move to kind of an advice only, fee only model. Really trying to understand your runway and what your client transition would look like is really important for this piece in particular. We did have some questions pop in. Let me see them. When you say I can't sell any commission products, does that mean I can no longer sell insurance or immunities, annuities? No, that is on our next slide. We do have some services that can do that in a fee-only way for you. Dominic, if a client needs insurance or annuities, they want you as the advisor to service them. Yes, we'll get into, there are some services for this. If they want you as the advisor, we do know there are some advisors who really believe heavily that you as the advisor need to be the ones writing the insurance policies. No, you will not be able to do that, but there are services out there that you can choose the insurance, that you can work with them really deeply to find the best products for your client. And then you have, what do you mean find a home for them? Can't I just have them wired to my bank ongoing? It's going to depend, Dominic, on how long those trails are. And we usually give about a year for any existing trails to wind down for that fee only transition. If you have trails that are going on beyond a year, I will go ahead and switch to our next slide. I don't know why it keeps doing that. That is going to be where DPL and LLIS can come into play. Both of these are services that can help you find both new products for your clients. If you do have insurance needs for your clients, as most advisors do, they can help you find fee-only policies and write those for your clients. They are then listed and receive any trails that those products may contain. DPL can be really, really helpful on the annuity front. And if you have existing annuities, they can really help you move those and ensure that you can continue to service them ongoing. On the Sapphire side as well, we do have advisors who had clients that had existing annuities that you just have to continue to service as the advisor. So a lot of these too are just going to be pieces that we would talk about in the transition, depending on where the annuity is held, how it's structured. There are always one-offs that we would need to dive into on the transition front. But both of these services are really wonderful for fee-only advisors. LLIS has been a longtime partner of the network and of XYPN, and it really is that kind of one-stop shop for you as an advisor of like, of course, I need to help my clients find insurance. How do I do that as a fee-only advisor? The next question that we get a lot, of course, is the broker protocol. What is actually allowed in this structure? So, what you can take if your firm is part of the broker protocol, Sapphire as an RIA is also part of it. You can take upon resignation, client name, address, phone, email, and account title. What you definitely and absolutely cannot take is really anything outside of that. So, account numbers, statements, reports, performance data, financial plans, notes, really any documents outside of what's permitted. The protocol is really there to protect your right to contact clients after resignation. This does not give you the right to kind of pre-solicit clients, to start exporting client data, to start prepping for the transition behind the scenes. The protocol is really there to just, of course, lessen the amount of legal action that goes on between firms. Let's go to the next slide. If you are at a protocol firm, of course, we went through the 5 things that you can take. You also can immediately contact those clients after you give notice to your BD. You do not have to wait for them to file the U5. That is the paperwork kind of officially separating you from the firm. A lot of advisors think that that's when that actually has to wait. You can start contacting clients as soon as you give your resignation. Solicitation is protected if you follow all of those rules. Of course, though, that still requires that one-on-one client outreach. We will talk about how Sapphire can help you if you're coming from a protocol firm, but unfortunately, you will not have, exactly the account numbers. We can't prep all of the paperwork like we can if you are at an RIA where you own your client data so that you can be ready to go 100% on day one. And of course, most firms, if not all BDs, do not have permission for you to take any sort of account data on top of what's allowed via protocol. If you are at a non-protocol firm, your employment agreement and any other agreements you have are going to be even more important than they are if you are coming from a protocol firm. That is what's going to govern your non-solicit, any confidentiality you have. Some firms restrict client outreach for months or years. Really, this is where we push everyone to get legal review. Depending on your state, of course, employment agreements, non-solicits, things like that can may not be enforceable. We cannot give a legal opinion on any of that. So if anyone comes to us from a non-protocol firm, we will be really advising you to get some legal opinions on what's possible, what's not. But really, in that case, kind of working with an attorney is almost required. Overall, though, there's almost no place or no way that you could take client lists, timing, language, anything you do. If you do end up leaving a non-protocol BD for something else, that's just going to matter even more than if you are at a protocol firm. There are, of course, other gotchas that can come into place. I did see one question roll through. With regards to insurance annuities, does that mean I can sell, recommend those that LLIS and DPL support? So you will be able to recommend those to your clients. LLIS or DPL would be the ones technically selling the policy and be the ones who are receiving the trail so that you can stay fee only.
Taylor, I just wanted to add something and correct me if it's wrong, if
Yeah.
it's wrong on the Sapphire side. So the way that some people would then still make money from this work that they're doing and be fee only is
Yeah.
like if you want a comprehensive plan with and a recommendation on insurance, like that's $500 more, right? So you can still like get $500 for making the insurance recommendation, but you're not receiving compensation like from the actual product.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
that, so you can still earn money from it. I think that's what they're trying to get at is like, how do I make money then?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you can definitely do it that way. I would say most advisors that we work with just view insurance and insurance recommendation and planning as part of comprehensive financial planning. So that would
Sure.
usually be bundled into your ongoing AUM fee, your ongoing financial planning fee. I don't see a lot of advisors charging for like an insurance evaluation, but that would be something that you could charge for.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
No, thank you. So, on top of all of those considerations on the fee only side, on the protocol side, there are just a lot of things to manage with a transition. This is a really big decision. There are a lot of moving pieces. And so, I'm going to talk through lightly kind of all of the things that you may need to be thinking about as you go down this path. If you are working with Sapphire, we will help you manage a lot of these pieces and make that transition much easier. But these are still things that should be in the back of your mind if you are doing it alone. So, of course, ACAT delays, NIGO for paperwork if you are moving them over, if you do have their account information to move over, that can cause a lot of headache and paperwork, extra paperwork for advisors. Not including investment instructions that can cause a lot of NIGOs. Being sure that you add all of those when you are starting the transition is really important. Contribution setup errors is something we see a lot. Really just underestimating the repapering load. This is a very big project that you are managing if you are doing this alone and not thinking it through. Even if you do have, a reasonable amount of accounts that you would be trying to handle, it can really be a large process. And then just in general, custodial differences versus how your BD works. Navigating a new system, we use Schwab as our custodian, and there are lots of quirks in terms of how things work there, how paperwork has to get filed. If you have been working in your BD world for a long time, it can take some time to get used to how your custodian works. We also have the compliance gotchas. So the U4 and U5 timing is something that we talked about. The U4 being filed is what will actually affiliate you as an IAR with our firm or another firm that you're going to. And that is when you can start actually servicing your clients. Depending on your state where you are residing, there are some extra hiccups that can be thrown your way. Some firms don't allow for dual registration, or excuse me, some states don't allow for dual registration. So that's just an extra part of the timing that you have to be aware of to ensure that there aren't any kind of lockup periods with your clients. Communication freeze periods is what can happen there. If you do have to wait a certain amount of time for your BD to actually file that U5, they have up to 30 days to do so. Some firms take that full 30 days to do that. And if you are in a state where you need to wait for them to file that before you can begin operations, there can be communication freezes. When you actually launch your website, when you actually can launch your social media is a big question a lot of advisors have. We talk through broker protocol misunderstandings and, of course, just limits on what data you can actually bring over that can cause a lot of hiccups and just extra work in getting things set up well for your clients. And then finally, it's just the emotional pieces. These are what can really, really wear on advisors, especially as the transition can drag on into weeks and months. Client anxiety is something if you don't communicate well around the transition or don't really have all the pieces put together as a plan, clients can end up feeling pretty anxious about what's happening behind the scenes. Transition fatigue is real. We've heard from some firms and some advisors who have tried to do it on their own, and it can be a very overwhelming process, trying to just do too much on your own. And really, that first 90 days, even if you have been building your practice at your BD or your existing RIA for years, it can really feel like you're just rebuilding from scratch, which can be emotionally just a really trying period for a lot of advisors. So, giving all of those gotchas, how can Sapphire, how can our service really help prepare you? So, you do want to leave your BD, you do want to leave your firm. How can we help you really prepare for that time period? And that is what we help people on our transitions team really navigate. Behind the scenes, all of the things that our team would be doing are prepping your fee schedule, your client agreements, getting all of those finalized so they're ready to go. As soon as you can start bringing on clients, everything will be absolutely ready. We will have all of the not only agreements themselves, but the workflows set up to be able to send those out to your clients. Second, your ADV and your U4, we will completely draft those, get your approval, and be ready for those to be filed. So the compliance pieces, outside of giving us the information we need, will not be something that you have to worry about. The third is we will be setting up your tech stack behind the scenes. So the day that you give your notice, you will have all your agreements ready. You will have your fee schedule drafted and ready to go. You'll have all your compliance documents, and you'll also have all of your tech ready to go. Your client paperwork plan for outreach is something that is only available if you are at a protocol firm. We do have a way for you to give us the protocol information you can have, client name, email, etc. And we will do a proactive communication to your clients to start gathering the information you need to do the transition, meaning account numbers, all the things that we need to open the correct accounts. We will help you pretty heavily with that process. But again, if you are at a non-protocol firm, this does not apply to your situation. And then number five, as we talked about briefly, if you are in a state that does not allow for dual registration, we would be reviewing that with you and really ensuring that when you give notice, we have a very clear plan of when is your BD going to file your termination, aka U5 paperwork, when will you be live as an IAR with us, and how will we be ready to serve you in that time period. So, timing wise, how long does all of this take? Reading that, it may sound like this could take months. Really, we try to do this at your pace. When we're working with anyone, we work backwards with them from the date that they want to give notice to their BD or to their firm. When you start working with us, we ask you to come prepared with your firm name, your logo, and how you want to charge your clients. You also will need your own entity at some point in the process. If you're worried about your BD noticing if you're filing for an entity, you can wait until you give notice, but that is something you will also need in this process. Behind the scenes for us, it really only takes us about 1 to 2 weeks to get your agreements drafted, your tech stack set up, all of your compliance items drafted, and then prepping that client outreach plan if you are at a protocol firm and do have, or excuse me, a protocol BD and do have that limited amount of client information that we can work with. From there, your notice date, you would give notice to your firm. If you are at a protocol firm, you could start client outreach as soon as you give notice. We could be prepared behind the scenes to help you with that client outreach to start gathering the data that you would need from your clients. The fee only transition work is also when that would begin. So, again, no new products would be sold. Any sort of existing appointments would start being canceled by your BD. But if you did need to take any action on your own, that is when that could begin. And then on our end, we would file and get you registered as an IAR as soon as your BD files their U5. Or if you're in a state that allows dual registration, we would just do that all on the same day. So if you are in most states allow this, you could start acting as an IAR, start moving clients over. If in theory they gave you all the information that they needed right after you gave notice, we could start onboarding those clients actually that same day. I do see some questions. Let's see. Is communication or promoting your services on social media with XYPN as restricted, limited as it is with a regular BD? This is definitely not as restricted or limited as a regular BD. Just to clarify a few things, there are some disclosures that you would need to add to any communications in terms of like your website, email, things like that, that do list that you're a part of XYPN's RIA. But overall, your communications, your brand is what is being externally seen by your clients, prospects, etc. So you do not need to show that you're operating as part of XYPN, just to clarify. Um, so in terms of just the overall limits, though, like we talked about earlier, we operate from a post-review standpoint, meaning that you can, after going through compliance training, start promoting your firm on social media, posting on your website, all of that without waiting for our team to give you the approval. All right. And then what happens during this repapering process? So let's say that your clients did give you the go ahead, they gave you the information that we needed to start the process. So the account numbers, depending on the account types, if it's a trust, of course, there's a lot of extra documents. Once we have all of those in place, our team would be handling all paperwork generation. So new account opening, as well as getting the client agreement sent out and signed, and then getting billing set up as well. The transition team would be the ones actually coordinating the money movement and be building out a client tracker for both you and, of course, our team to keep an eye on. Keeping an eye on all of the moving parts can be one of the most stressful parts of a transition like this. And our team is going to be the ones really working behind the scenes to make sure that we have everything handled for you. All cost basis, assets would be validated. Our team would be working with you to ensure that the correct models were being assigned to the clients as they moved over, and that any trading that you needed to happen was ready to go as soon as the accounts were ready. And as I already said, we would be the ones really handling the tracking, the updates for you in real time, and all of the support throughout this process. So once everything is kind of ready, what does day one of you are launched and ready to go look like? You have a fully functional firm, you have your tech, you have ops behind the scenes ready to support you, you have your compliance set up and going. Your billing is set up and ready to go. We can help you bill depending on your fee schedule, monthly, quarterly, we can do ongoing fees. There's a lot of flexibility there, depending on what works best for you and your clients. Client accounts would be moving and being reviewed by our team. Your investment management approach would be live, and you would really be focusing in this time on client outreach, marketing, not the behind the scenes admin. So what does this all look like together, really going fee only with Sapphire? You end up with full autonomy for your firm, your brand, and your clients. You have that clear fiduciary alignment from going fee only. What we really view is this is really a partnership kind of with you're plugging into an infrastructure so that you can truly scale your firm. We have some firms come in and tell us, I want to get to 100 clients and I'm going to be good there. We have other firms coming to us saying they want to grow to 500 million with just them as an advisor. And our job is to really make your dream firm possible. That's what we do for all of the advisors we work with. We really want to make it so that you don't have to hire a full back of office team to make the firm that you want a reality. Less admin, more client facing time, and then a cleaner business model long term. You know where your revenue is at, you know what your payout is, and it is a very clear and transparent split. Overall, we hear from a lot of firms who come over more than anything else that they just wish they had done it sooner. So the takeaways is Sapphire, we think of it really as guided independence. You still have your own firm, your own brand, but you have a lot of support behind the scenes, the scaffolding to really make the firm you want possible. Any transition isn't going to be small, but it is doable. It is possible to leave your broker dealer. It's possible to leave your firm. It requires work. It can require partnerships and a team helping you. But again, it is possible. And with structure, with support, 2026 can be your year that you restart and launch your own brand. So now we are on to questions. We have a lot of time for questions. If there are any that come through, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Yeah, maybe while people are thinking about what they want to ask, you can tell us like what work should folks be doing if they are kind of serious about making this transition? Like what can they be doing now? Should they get their logo ready? Like what are some pieces that you would expect them to come in ready with to start with Sapphire?
Yeah, I think more than anything, starting conversations with our team early is one of the best pieces you can do. Your first conversations would all be with Amy, lovely Amy on this call, and we would really be giving you kind of the game plan to operate with. But we have advisors we talk to that are saying, I'm not going to even think about this transition until 2028. Or, we have those conversations that early on. So even if this is something you're just starting to consider, I would really push you to just start that conversation with our team of what does this look like. When we actually start the process, we do want you to have your firm name, logo, your email set up so that we can start getting you added to the tech stack. We personalize your client agreement, your tech stack, any client-facing portals, etc., with your firm name and logo. So having those finalized just means that we don't waste weeks kind of changing things. Naming your firm can be not necessarily a hurdle, but advisors can really go back and forth on the right name for their firm. So ensuring you have that done kind of before we start working together so that we hit the ground running. Those are all really great things to work on. The other big one is fee structure and fee schedule. So it doesn't mean that you can't come to us and not still have some questions. We can work through some things together. But if you come in and have absolutely no idea how you want to charge your clients, again, it's your firm at the end of the day. We can do a lot of things. You can charge everyone a flat AUM percentage if you want to. If you want to have a really complex kind of tiered financial planning model, you can do that. So at least having an idea of how you want to approach that. We'll be the ones setting up the agreement, drafting the language, making sure all of it works, but having those pieces ready would be ideal.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, question. Most people leaving will get locked down immediately when your BD finds out you're leaving. How do you suggest leaving without burning the bridges?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think it's I hate the answer, but it really is so dependent on so many things. I talk to advisors all of the time. Some of them know the relationship is going to be really contentious before they even leave, based on how they had friends or colleagues, what experience they had. Other ones, things they think things are going to go one way and then they sour along the line. I would say, yeah, look at the past few, who left in the past few months. What was their experience like, or at least the last year? Did the firm go after them in any way? When did they lose access? Getting that information is really, really helpful. I would also say that not necessarily to, unfortunately, trust anything you were told when you started working there or the relationships that you've had. We've just seen too many times that the things that aren't actually written in a contract, if you don't actually have clients in a carve out or actually in a contract that you own certain pieces, that usually when it comes to you giving notice, that those pieces don't actually materialize. So I'd say look at what's happened with others when they left in the past year or so. You definitely can get locked out very quickly from given firms. And this is why we try to be as prepared as possible with you when you go to give that notice, because we do know that many BDs and many firms will start contacting clients immediately so that they can try to keep those relationships or move them within the firm or BD. So we try to be as ready as possible. If you are in the protocol, in a protocol firm, you will have access to those items. That is something they cannot lock you out from. But outside of that, yeah, I would really just be kind of looking at the other relationships, not doing things behind the scenes, like do not be downloading client lists, do not be downloading anything that could raise a flag for anyone if you're trying to keep things non-contentious. But outside of that, it's just hard to know without your situation. We've seen some go really well. I will say that. It does not always have to be this horror story, but we have seen a lot of situations go badly. So I like to prepare people for the worst situations rather than assuming the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And also focusing on what you can control, right? There's so much of this that is like not within your ability
Mhm.
to direct. And so I think the main thing is to follow your employment agreements to the T, right? Like,
Yep.
and that probably means getting a lawyer to make sure that you play the game exactly as it's been laid out. Because then you know that even if it does end up being contentious, it wasn't based on anything that you did. I think is a huge piece of that as well.
Yeah,
Because yeah,
absolutely.
it's just it's a tough thing to do, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and
so
I would say like the legal review piece, I talked about it a lot if you're at a non-protocol firm, but we push a lot of advisors to get some legal opinion, even if they're just at an RIA, that they helped, start. Like it's not just in the BD world that type of review can be useful. Employment agreement review is really helpful, but you also might want to talk to a securities attorney. So again, it's really hard to give one size fits all advice.
for
We
sure.
are going to be releasing a transition planning tool right after this webinar. I forgot to mention it, but it will have some pieces of walking through like what type of attorney to contact based on your situation and what may or may not be in the agreements that you signed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, more details on this. Of this person has heard that when people are leaving a BD, they basically file all their registration filings under a fictitious name, and then when it's all approved, they can file their notice, terminate, and then take over the RIA registration and be ready to go. Am I hearing correctly that XYPN is already an established entity? So basically, they are the fictitious holder of the registration until the advisor can take it over. So I think we're just misunderstanding the structure here.
Yeah, I think, well, when you're talking about working with XYPN again, XYPN was founded back in 2014, and our model since then, and what we still promote with our Emerald service is you registering and owning your own RIA. So that is something that is kind of a whole other endeavor. Still very possible to do, but that is where you are registering at the state or the SEC level most of the time with our compliance team and XYPN's help to get that registration set up. But when you're doing that, there are a lot more considerations around timing, the filing date. That is where that transition period can be months long because as soon as you give your notice to your firm, there really isn't a way, based on what you kind of talked about there. Uh, I don't believe, Amy, you're more in touch on the RIA registration side, but I don't think we've seen really any luck with like filing any sort of registration paperwork under a different name. We have seen some people try to do like they'll get a partner and the partner would start the registration process and then they would affiliate, which is a little bit different. But we haven't really seen any luck with somebody putting fake names or like fictitious names and then glomming onto that RIA registration. With Sapphire, we are XYPN's RIA. So we have a corporate RIA service. You affiliate with us as an IAR, and the benefits there are like you can do that kind of day one transition. We can be prepared the day that you're ready to give notice to do all the pieces behind the scenes. And our team is really there as your back office for all the pieces that we talked about. So you can go either route. There's just downsides and upsides to both.
Yes. And so the with Emerald, then you would be registering your own RIA, and
Hmm.
then you are an IAR of your own RIA. I don't know why they ran out of letters for all of this, apparently, but then the other option with Sapphire is we have our RIA and you join us as an IAR. So that's like the key difference. Also, this whole like fictitious names thing, I have heard that there are services through lawyers where like a lawyer will set up the entity and get it registered, and
Mm.
then the advisor then basically comes in once
Oh,
they
the entity side.
the
Okay,
entity, yes. And
got it.
so we don't offer that. It's not
Yeah.
an XYPN's wheelhouse. I want to be very clear about that. We would not facilitate something like that. They do exist. I don't know how to find them, to be honest, and I think they're expensive. But yes, there is like a world where that service exists, but not at XYPN, unfortunately.
Yeah, and on the Sapphire side, again, the entity is something that we, as you actually start getting payouts from us, we want you to have set up, but it's not something that you need day one that we start the process. If you want to give notice and then start the filing process for your entity, you can absolutely do that. On the like you are registering your own RA, you do need the entity before you do that. So that's where all of the extra complexity can come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? I guess, Taylor, if there's one thing you want people to walk away from here today with, what would that be?
Yeah, I think that again, so much of this process can really feel like it's not possible. There's a lot of fear around so many pieces of the process, namely the compliance side of things. So, like I mentioned, if you are thinking about this, if this is even something you're slightly considering, just starting the conversation with our team early is what I would recommend. We have seen lots and lots and lots of different situations, and our team is really good at really being honest with you of this sounds like a great fit for your firm, or hey, actually, I think you should wait a few years, or here's the things you need to do to get prepared. We know that you partnering with XYPN and working with us is a long-term partnership. It's something that we want to last for a really long time, and we know that it's tied to your employment and to how you make money. This is a very big decision. And so, starting the conversation early, if it's something you're thinking about, would be my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put in the chat the transition action plan that you just mentioned, Taylor, which is going to have details on figuring out how to move away from a BD. So it's brand new today, sounds like. So everyone go check
Ah.
that out for sure. And I think another thing people can do as they're making this decision is just be focused on your why for maybe making a change out of a broker dealer. Like, do you want more control? Do you want to be able to do social media stuff? Do you want to have a better payout? Like, find some things that you really want to solve, and that really will help us on our team figure out like what is the right fit for you. Should it be Emerald?
Hmm.
Should it be Sapphire? Where is this Sapphire going to step in and help you? And yeah, we're happy to work through everyone with all that.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Cool.
everybody for joining
Yes.
today.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget to fill out that survey when you leave. Schedule a call with me. I'd love to visit with you. And everyone, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Taylor, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.